Good evening, everyone. This is Reading for Charity again. Getting through these deluge of books to kind of catch up on the last couple of weeks' worth of reading. Usual spiel at the start. This is a charity read. We're doing it for the Archie Foundation, which is a fantastic charity. Works in the northeast of Scotland, helping sick kids who have to be in hospital through no fault of their own. It's a great charity to support. I'm happy to be raising money for them. Hopefully we can keep raising some more money for them. £750 so far, so I'm hoping to, at the end of this, I hope to have £1,000. I don't think it's going to happen, but we'll see. It's all been done by donation, these 100 books that I'm reading over the course of the year. It's like 42,000 pages, and this is 39 books through it, so we're starting to get through it. Today, The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, aged 13 3/4. Jumping, as we seem to be doing at the moment, from hard sci-fi to, day in the life books to, nonsense to everything else. It's actually kept it a little bit sane for me by doing the hopping around. Having one big chunk of kind of very similar books in one go was actually starting to do my head in a little bit. So the big series of fantasy novels, just one after the other, you just want a little bit of a change to freshen things up. So jumping from really properly hard sci-fi straight into this was quite was quite useful. Actually, it was quite nice. So The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, if no one's read this before, it's Sue Townsend. It's an exceedingly famous book, exceedingly famous series of books. There's like a dozen of them or something now, and there's films and TV shows and all sorts based on the books. Stephen Mangan, I think, played one of the famous adaptations, but I think it was when he was 30 or 20s or something like that. So it's a fairly well-known book that people have read, or you may well be aware of. This is actually the first time I've come across Adrian Mole. I've never watched any of the TV shows. I've never read any of the books. It's the first time I've come into it. Didn't know what to expect at all. Picked it up, read. And it's very much one of those year in a life books, similar to the Irish one, the Roddy Doyle one, the name escapes me, Paula Spencer. Similar in the way that Paula Spencer's is, or Wilt is. It's just a chunk of someone's life and things that happen to them during that time. Unlike Paula Spencer, this is humorous. Paula Spencer was definitely not. It's more like Wilt in that it's verging on farce. It's the kind of it was written in the start of the 80s, and the book is based at the start of the 80s. So in the kind of heyday of British situational comedy. So the Fawlty Towers, the Hello Hellos, the Dad's Army. All these shows, and I think it kind of it shows through the book that it's basically situational comedy is where all this came from. It's verging on the farce, same as Wilt was. I think Wilt was a brilliant example of kind of British situational comedy, and I think this Adrian Mole book is as well. The main character is ridiculously naive, hugely gullible. A constant strain on his parents, and then basically just shenanigans happen. So, there's a bit of women's lib, there's a bit of separation, there's a bit of divorce, there's a bit of, moving into women's shelter, becoming a lesbian. It runs the kind of full gamut of family life surrounding him, and it's very well written. It's exceedingly well written. I like the all the characters in the novel. So his dad, his mum, the creep Lucas, the grandmother, the teachers. Everyone has very individual voices when they appear on the page, despite the fact that he is essentially narrating the whole thing to his diary. Each of the characters has very defined ways of speaking and being, which I find fairly refreshing. Because there's so many of the books that don't. It's one of my biggest bugbears in the book, of books, where all the characters sound exactly the same because the author is incapable of giving people separate voices. This very much, they all have their own voices and they work really, really well. All the characters are kind of very, very tuned. So even though you don't get much in the way of description of the characters, you get a little bit but not much. you get the kind of the stereotype in your head that Sue Townsend is obviously gone for. You know, the Pandora, you know, it's the very earnest, prim, you know, slightly upper middle class girl, you know, who always has the pigtails and the neatly turned out, and whose mother likes wearing fur coats and stuff. You get the stereotype very, very easily because Sue Townsend, you know, heavily relies on the types of stereotypes everyone is used to from British situational comedy. You know, so the grandmother is very kind of Hyacinth Bouquet-esque. Bouquet came later, but you know, if you read the book now, you're aware of the character. You know, the Margot Ledbetter. There you go. Is probably a better description. You know, the very prim proper mother who disapproves highly of her son's choice of wife. You know, you know the character already. The character exists fully formed in your head before Sue puts pen to paper, because she's using characters that we're all used to if you've ever watched any British sitcoms, or old British sitcoms certainly. So that kind of frees her up to actually make more of a farcical situation. And it's good. It's a really, really enjoyable read. It's completely fluffy. There's no greater theme. There's no, you know, coming of age-esque tale. There's no greater instruction into, you know, the human condition. It's light-hearted farce, you know, in much the same way as Wilt was. I don't think it's got the intelligence of Wilt. I thought Wilt was absolutely tremendous. This is good without being clever, I think is the right way to put it. Partially because I think the structure leads it to be, makes it hard to be clever, I think. You know, very, very short diary entries about what happened that day means you can have set up on-running gags from day to day. But it's very hard to set up a very complex situation to fully run with a joke in the same way that Wilt does. Wilt, you know, sets up hugely complicated situations when Wilt's being, you know, tested by the police. And, you know, there's a huge amount of humour that's derived out of those situations. There's less, it's harder to build up complex scenarios when you're only writing a paragraph on a subject at a time, really. So you don't get, I don't think it drives as much humour. I mean, reading through the book, there was kind of like, haha, rather than a, you know, genuine laughing out loud moments like I had with Wilt. That's not to say this is rubbish. It's not in any way, shape or form. It's an enjoyable book. But it's light and it's fluffy, and there's not a huge amount else that you can say about it. So I won't. Essentially, there's very little to talk about because there's nothing to complain about. It is what it is, which is, you know, it's a pleasant, easy read. If you're looking for something light, you know, without huge amount of weight behind it, it's an enjoyable little fluff read. And it's not exactly long. It's 260 pages or something. 258 pages. So it's not long and it's quite nice. I'm not sure if I'll go and find any of the other ones. I think if I was going to go pick up a book like this that I was planning on reading, I'd go pick up more of the Wilt ones, because I think the Wilt's in the similar vein, but is definitely the superior book. Much, much, much more superior than this. But it's an enjoyable book. So, Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, age 13 3/4. Should you read this book? Absolutely. It's not a long read, it's not a big read, it's not a hard read. If you need something to just take your mind off the shittiness of the world for a little while, this is a really nice little sweet book to do it. You know, read it over a couple of nights and just feel less bad about the world. It's a nice little book. It's very, very enjoyable. So yeah, not much else to say on this. I didn't think there was going to be a lot I had to say on this after I'd read it, not before I'd read it, because I didn't know what I was going to expect. But yeah, there's not a huge amount to say. Good book. I enjoyed it. Next review will be in a couple of days' time. I'm hoping this is Thursday, so probably Sunday. It'll probably be Sunday because it'll take me a while to get through to this little tome. But Sunday's review will be Watership Down, which is interesting so far. I'm only 100-something pages into the book, and it's just Lord of the Rings so far. It genuinely is just Lord of the Rings. Or I should say The Hobbit. It's really just The Hobbit to begin with. It's... yeah. He's obviously read Lord of the Rings and went, I can do that with bunnies. So far. I mean, 100 pages in and that's what we have so far. But we'll see. We'll see. If I get it all finished by Sunday, and I should be able to get it finished by Sunday, I'll have a review there, and hopefully I won't be saying, it's just Lord of the Rings with bunnies by the end of it. We'll see. But yes, until Sunday, this is Reading for Charity, reading for the Archie Foundation, fantastic charity that supports sick kids in the northeast of Scotland. Until Sunday, thank you very much for listening, thank you very much for watching, and I will speak to you all again on Sunday. Good evening.